messing around.
Oh my goodness, roomies. It's you. It's me. We're together again for another loft meeting. Loft meeting. All right, let's dive straight in. We've got some great emails here today. I am so excited to see what y'all have been thinking about with the show. All right. Hi, Hannah and Lamorne. I love the show and pod. I fell in love with New Girl during the pandemic in my senior year of high school. Since then, I've probably watched it 100 times. Not even kidding. The whole show? You might be like the biggest super fan ever. I have two questions. Hannah, I know you got the couch from set, but if you could steal something from the bar, what would you take? Also, who is your favorite recurring character to have on set? Thank you so much for making this podcast and feeding the New Girl obsession for so many of us. It makes it so much funnier hearing the background info and then watching the episode, knowing who was causing trouble that day on set. Much love, and I wish you both the best, Emily. P.S. You should all totally pull together and make a spinoff. Yes, I got the couch. I actually got a bunch of furniture from the set because the show ended and I bought my first ever house. I'd never owned a house before. I bought my first house that year when the show ended. And I was living in an apartment. I always lived in a tiny apartment the entire time I was shooting New Girl. And I moved into a house and I had no furniture. And I needed to fill it quickly. And I don't know if anyone's tried to buy furniture, but it is crazy. And it's also like, it's ready in 6 months. And New Girl, all that furniture they were going to sell and get rid of. And I was like, what? So I got actually like some nice furniture pieces from the show that were in my house for a while. And then slowly over time, I sold them or gave it away. And then slowly kind of replaced things in my house over the many years since the end of the show. If I could steal something from the bar, I will say there was a plaque on the outside of where we shot the bar that said that Chinatown had been shot there with Faye Dunaway. And I always thought that was really cool. So that's probably the one thing I'd want to take from the bar. Because everything else is a prop. I don't know if a gin bottle full of water is that appealing. What else did you just ask me? Not that, Debbie. You could steal from the bar. Would it be? Oh, you're saying we should pull together and make a spinoff. I wish it worked like that. It's going to have to come from Liz. Y'all need to just start talking to Liz if you really want this reunion or spinoff to happen. She's the one. This is her baby. Hi, Hannah and Lamorne. Love the mess around. You two crack me up every week. Your chemistry is unmatched. We can feel the true friendship, and I genuinely look forward to each episode. I listen to it on my way to work every day. I teach middle school on Long Island. One of my favorite running bits is the fake feud with Jake Johnson. I laugh every time Lamorne makes something up, and Hannah immediately calls him out. You know, listen, it's like brothers, right? I have brothers because of this show, and they like to poke fun at each other. And they make up wild stories about each other. But I have to always make sure I'm protecting the other brother. Does that make sense? So, yes, that is also my job to be like, stop it, quit it, knock it off. That's not true. It's just my role. It's just my role in life with these boys. You often say to write in with suggestions. So here we go. Ooh, I'm excited. I would absolutely love a whole episode or two, LOL, about the biggest New Girl improv moments. I love behind the scenes goodies like these. I often think if I wasn't a teacher, I'd want to be on set working in the props and continuity department. Give us the goods and all the unfiltered, unscripted gold. Which scenes were totally made up on the spot? What bloopers or unscripted moments make it into the final cut? Who broke character the most? Which episodes had the wildest behind the scenes chaos? You guys are the best. Thanks for keeping the mess going. Rachel, I think if I'm being honest with you, the True American episodes had so much freedom in them. So when we were shooting True American, we all got to be there. We all got to be sloppy and messy and funny and lean into all these bits. So those were like, if you really want to see a lot of our own personalities, a lot of it happens during the True American shootings. I feel like those are great for it. I know that Cake Dudes was an improv moment from Jake and Max that we all laughed about for a very, very, very long time because that was them just being silly and tired at the end of a long day. I think a lot of the weird dancing that was also us, when like something is uncomfortable, so you almost like kind of make fun of yourself to get through it. And I think that maybe aside from Zoe, who's a professional dancer, um, I know it was very true for Jake and for myself that if we ever had to dance on camera, we just went as weird as possible because it makes us personally uncomfortable. Um, so that's when you also can see a lot of like physical comedy moments. The other thing I will say, if you're always trying to look for like moments where you see people breaking, and those like chaotic ones are like box episodes. And a box episode is basically where the gang's all together and we don't leave the location. So one of them is when like Jess is hiding the meth. She thinks she has meth and a police officer is coming over to the house. One of my favorite episodes of all time to shoot because it was all of us hanging out together all day, every day for 5 days because it takes 5 days to shoot an episode. So Monday to Friday, no one's breaking off and going to shoot that scene or not working 3 days that week. We're all together all day for 5 days, which makes us all like loopy and funny and silly. And those are really fun to do as well. Those were my favorite ones by far to shoot. So if you watch those episodes, you'll see lots of those moments. Okay. Hi, Hannah. This is from, it doesn't say a name. I'm adopting a kitty. We're getting her next weekend. She's black with white paws and sapphire blue eyes. I was considering calling her Elizabeth Taylor, but my partner wants to name her Binks from the Hocus Pocus movie. I'm conflict adverse, so I thought, why not let Hannah pick a name and we'll call it a day. Oh my goodness. So Hannah, what should we name the kitty? No greater honor has ever been bestowed. And this is the cutest picture of a cute kitty. Oh my gosh. So everybody knows I have a Instagram account just for my cats called Have Cats Will Travel. Cats is with a Z. It's linked in my bio of my personal IG page, The Real Hannah Simone. You'll be able to just go straight there. And I have had so many cats in my life. It is crazy. I had a cat named Sita. I had a cat named Pebbles. I had 3 cats when I lived in Cyprus. Sita was in England. Pebbles was in Calgary. Then I lived on a little Greek island called Cyprus, or it's a big Greek island. And I had a cat called Misps, Puss in Boots, and Tigger, and Osmog. Osmog was found and by a lady, and it was just a tiny kitty, and I had to like bottle feed it and take care of it. And the cat's name was Gizmo, which I didn't really like. But I was like, oh, what if the cat knows like the sounds of that word? So I tried to rearrange the letters ish, and I came up with Osmog. Osmog was feral and insane. And then I had, oh my gosh, then I went to university and I wasn't allowed to have cats. And then finally got to adopt a cat named Jake, who looks, funny enough, many years before New Girl, I had a cat called Jake. And Jake looked exactly like this kitty that you guys just adopted, a tuxedo cat. My favorite like look of a cat. So sweet. Jake, and then I adopted Frank, who was blind and tiny and was a perma kitten his whole life. And then I adopted 3 more cats. I adopted Zeke, or 2 more cats, Zeke and Alfie. I just realized saying this out loud, except for my first 2 cats. Oh no, and then there's a couple cats on the Greek island. I was like, most of these are boys. So your cat is a girl, Elizabeth Taylor, and Binks. I mean, here's what I will say. I love a long cat name. I love a very formal, long, 9 middle name cat name. I think it's wonderful. So I would totally support Elizabeth Binks Taylor. Lizzie Binks. Lizzie Binks is a great name for a cat. So I would totally support that. But here's what I'll say, because you always got to shoot your shot. I would also put in contention Cece, Hannah, or Simone. Just saying. You know. But Lizzie Banks Taylor is a great cat name. And she is so beautiful and so sweet that I don't think that you can go wrong. But I love that you brought that to the pod. I will name any animal. I will name human babies. Anything you want. I love it. There was a writer that we had on our show called Berkeley Johnson, one of the funniest, most talented human beings, and gorgeous and kind. And I had a knack for naming characters. So if you ever hear a character on New Girl that has like a funny name or a weird name and you're like, that was so great name, that name of that character, probably was Berkeley. Some people just have a gift for it. I will say I have a bit of a gift when it comes to naming animals because I get such joy from it. If you give me context, we adopted the cat from this shelter or this litter or this big thing happened in my life, I will use that as inspiration in the naming. So bring it to me is all I will say. Those are our emails for this week. I really appreciate getting an email from a teacher too. You know, I am a fan of the teachers. New Girl, that's the heart of that show too, is about a teacher. Just trying to live her life, just trying to do the best she can. So share your teaching stories. I know a few teachers have written in and said they've used moments from New Girl in their teaching, which so delights me that that there's actually some worth being passed down, some knowledge that can be derived out of our show and passed on to the new generation. That's great. And thank you also for that wonderful email about what I would steal from the bar. Yeah, it's hard. A lot of that stuff's nailed down. You know, like, what are you going to get? That would be quite tricky. Thank you, everybody, for this great loft meeting. Please remember to go to our website. We have New Girl merch. So if your brother, sister, father, grandfather, grandmother, anybody you know is a fan of the show, you can get them legit merch designed by Lamorne and myself. It's at themessaroundpod.com. We even have a Ferguson shirt for all of you cat lovers like me out there. You can follow us on Instagram at themessaroundpod. If you have a question or want to leave us a voicemail, you can email it to themessaroundpod@gmail.com. You can also slide into the DMs. Okay. I am here for you. I love doing these loft meetings. I've shared this before that I started. Wasn't my first job, but one of my first jobs was being a VJ on Much Music in Canada. And they would do a daily show called Video Flow. And it was live for 1 or 2 hours in the middle of the day. And nobody wanted to host that show. And it was the one I begged to do because people would email in and fax in their questions. And I would read them live on air. And we would try to figure it out or try to pull up the video they wanted. And it was such a cool way. There's just something really special about, making a show and being able to connect directly with your audience. And that's what these loft meetings are about. And they would not exist if you guys did not send in all this crazy, cute, funny, interesting, thought-provoking content and questions. So just know I really appreciate you. So thank you very much. Bye. That was The Mess Around, an iHeartMedia production.
Our executive producer is Joel Monique. Our senior producer is Abu Zafar. Bei Wang provided engineering and editing services.
Additional production from Daniel Goodman, Wendy Heisler, and Kyle Chevron. Our theme song was written and composed by Ronald Jukebox Jackson.
Catch you next time.
Bye.